Kumar, congratulations on the new Figo sedan. Uh, it's the first sub 4 meter sedan Ford has done. So I just wanted to understand what were the challenges, because clearly within a sub 4 meter length, there's a lot of packaging issues to kind of accommodate and try and get as much roominess as well as boot space into it. So just wanted to understand where the challenges really were.
As you mentioned, the packaging is a very, very critical part in this segment. And the second real key challenge is making the vehicle look good, something that people are proud to buy and to drive. You don't want the boot to look like it's slapped on as an afterthought to a five-door vehicle. So to start out, it's a very harmonious process. So you're trying to design the exterior and the interior at the same time so that there's good proportions for the vehicle. But on the inside, package is really key for these customers. So package efficiency, which is basically a measure of how much room can you provide the customers on the inside for a given outside dimension, and in this case, a sub 4 meter dimension. So I think our team's done an absolutely fantastic job. We haven't revealed the interior yet, but when we do, you'll see it's a brilliant interior, beautiful craftsmanship, great roominess, and it's got all the latest technologies that the customers would need.
But where is the conflict exactly? I mean, does it work really down to the parcel shelf area, where it's a trade-off between boot space and a little bit of rear seat legroom? Because I would imagine up to the B pillar at least it is quite common. I mean, it would be with a hatch, which is it's understood. So is that really where you kind of count the millimeters?
We count the millimeters all over the interior. So efficiency is something that requires a lot of attention to detail. It is in the thickness of the seats, it is where you position the H-point in the back seat, it is where the feet of the seat come in, where the seat tracks are, where the customers can put their foot comfortably. So we use all of those levers to try to maximize the space on the inside of the cabin and still provide a usable and attractive looking boot and a car.
Is one of the challenges also the fact that it's not going to be a standalone sedan? I mean, obviously this would be a family of vehicles, so you've got to accommodate other body styles, perhaps a hatch as well. So are there some trade-offs there as well? Because if it was just a standalone sedan, you could probably look at it from nose to tail, just for one product. But here you do have to accommodate perhaps a certain commonality with other products as well. Yeah.
So the key there is at which point in the design process we decide on the portfolio that'll be designed together. So if you design the hatchback and the sedan at the same time, it gives you a lot of opportunity to design them correctly, to design them so that certain elements of the sedan don't look like they're an afterthought. So it is the key is to start the design process early enough and together with the other products.
Right. This platform has underpinned successful cars like the Ecosport as well, and now this is, I think, the next version coming to India is going to be on this platform as well. This platform, how important is it in let's say Ford's universe, and does this platform have a lot of legs? I mean, is it possible that there could be more variants and this platform be milked even further?
The platform is very, very key to us. Overall, as a corporation, we're moving to 9 core platforms. All of our products will be built off of those 9 core platforms. And this is one of those core 9 platforms. The B cars are incredibly important to us. They're very important in markets like India, in China, in ASEAN, in Europe. So we already have several products on this platform. We have a BMEV in Europe. We have the Ecosport you mentioned, the Fiesta, the best-selling B car. So a very important platform for us.
Yeah, you've got an MPV in Europe with sliding doors.
That's correct.
I mean, presumably such a product would be quite expensive in emerging markets. Logically, could one see a product like that with regular conventional doors, and what's the kind of scope for developing, let's say, a different iteration of that kind of product?
So as part of our regular process every year, we look at all of our markets, we look at our portfolio of platforms and top hats, and we continuously study where we have opportunities and where we have profitable opportunities and where we can create opportunities that are viable opportunities. So as that process, we study it all the time, but specifically on a future product, I couldn't comment today.
Talking about opportunities, there seems to be a big opportunity for some below the B segment, which is a sub B or even an A segment. A lot of manufacturers are looking at that. I think Ford is even studying that. What's your assessment of the potential of that segment for Ford, and I mean, what are the challenges there? Clearly, it's a very India-specific segment and not enough scale, perhaps. But so, just wanted to understand. I think you've been studying this segment, and is it still a tough one to crack?
The key challenge on that segment really is scale and margins, and it is, as you mentioned, a very India-specific segment. But as I said earlier, we continuously look at the marketplace. We continuously look for opportunities, and we study all of those opportunities. And if we can make a viable business proposition, we'll certainly go for it.
Again, talking about, let's say, platforms, you've got two types of platforms right now concurrently running in India. You've got the Figo on a B2XX, and you've got the Ecosport, and you'll be having the the Figo Sedan also on the same platform. Are you going to converge on one platform at some point, or does it make sense to run two parallel platforms? I mean, logically, one would imagine that legacy platforms would eventually be phased out as part of a Ford One kind of strategy as well, because you really want to streamline everything, have everything as, let's say, uniform as possible. And talking about your 9 platforms totally, I don't think this platform would figure in one of those 9.
So, as you mentioned, we are moving to 9 core platforms in the longer term. We are transitioning, as any business would. And the B platform that the Ecosport is based on and the Fiesta is based on is the B platform as part of those 9 core platforms. But there is a transition period. And when exactly does that transition happen is based on market demand, consumer demand, our facilities. So we will be moving to the 9 core platforms, but I couldn't predict when exactly that.
Right. So basically what one can read is, when you talk about transition, is that legacy platforms in transition generally move out and get replaced by the core platforms of the group.
That's absolutely correct. So that is our plan as part of One Ford plan, for the sake of synergies, for efficiency, for scale. As you know, we're a very capital intensive industry, so scale is very, very important to us. So fewer platforms, the better. It's better for us, it's better for our supplier partners, it's better for our manufacturing, it's better for quality. So that is the long-term strategy.
You're talking of scale and how important is the Fiesta in India a victim of maybe too little scale and kind of a vicious cycle? You couldn't localize it enough. Price initially was quite expensive. So, you've got the Fiesta on one side, which really has not been successful, and you've got the EcoSport on the other, which is really a runaway success, and you can't make enough of them.
Right.
Clearly, the kind of success levels are a bit disproportionate for cars basically spun off the same platform. So clearly, Fiesta, we know it's in a very competitive segment as well, but I think there were some issues on cost and localization.
So the two vehicles are very different. The EcoSport is a very capable SUV, and it essentially created a segment for itself. It took an opportunity that was a white space opportunity, and it's been wildly successful, not just in India, all around the world. The Fiesta plays a very different role in our portfolio in India. It is a driver's car, it's an enthusiast's car, it's full of technology, so people who appreciate that kind of driving dynamics and technology were the target customers for that particular vehicle. So it was never meant to be a very high volume car like the Figo or the EcoSport. And as you mentioned, the scale is very, very important. So the localization levels for the kind of volume we were targeting and the Fiesta are substantially lower, because you couldn't invest, we couldn't invest, and our supply base wouldn't invest for those kinds of volumes. It just doesn't make business sense. But nevertheless, it plays a very key role in our portfolio, and that's why the vehicle is here even at lower localization levels.
And is that one of the reasons why it's coming with a facelift, and so you're not giving up on the Fiesta yet, because clearly are you going to be localizing it even more now? I'm sure you have some, let's say, scale benefits from EcoSport, because there is definitely some part sharing. I mean, powertrain is quite obvious, right, especially on the 1.5 diesel and gas. So can one see that scale benefit being translated a bit into the Fiesta, and in its new with the new facelift, better value proposition?
Yep. There are common parts, and both vehicles are underpinned by the same platform. So there are benefits, and we are continuing with the nameplate, correct.
Coming to EcoSport, runaway success, but I think the real disappointment, especially from the Indian consumer's point of view, is that you haven't been able to make enough of them, and there's huge resentment also now in the market because really the demand has overshot the supply. What really is the issue? Because clearly, the ramp up, it just hasn't happened as quickly as one would have expected.
So the issue simply is that the vehicle is so successful around the world. The demand is higher than what we had capacitized the vehicle for. And it's just not in India. So as you know, we export this vehicle to several countries from India. So demand in all the countries is higher. So the key answer would be to break constraints to get our capacity higher. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're working very closely with our supplier partners and with our facilities to get it moving as quickly as possible so that we can meet this demand for our customers as quickly as possible.
You know, it's been 2 years since the EcoSport was shown, exactly last Auto Expo, and it's taken 2 years, and even within 2 years since it was shown to getting into customers' hands, to me it seems probably one of the most prolonged launches that there is in the industry, and that's not a good thing really, because the product is great. I mean, it's won our Car of the Year and so many awards, but just getting it into the market, it seems to have been a pretty long drawn and even rather painful process. So not an ideal kind of, let's say, bringing the car to market situation.
Well, we have a fairly rigorous process on what we do with our concept vehicles. We show them, we get input from media, we get input from customers, we get input from other important stakeholders, and then we incorporate that input into the product. And then in parallel, there are work streams to set up our factories, our supplier factories, all the logistics. So we bring the vehicle to the market when the vehicle is ready. And as is the case in EcoSport, it's been a great success, and we've got high hopes for the concept vehicle that we've shown just yesterday.
So can we expect a similar time frame? I mean, a long drawn out kind of launch phase for this, if that's the way you've gone with the EcoSport?
I cannot comment on the exact timing of the launch, but we are working, we're following that process, and I don't think it'll be 2 years.